Hi guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being the music journalism site, links are in the description down below. And we finally have another track of the month segment, and this time it's for January 2017. So it's been a little while since we've done this segment, and that's purely down to huge transitional changes, as well as the end of year list season, which happens in December. So we obviously didn't do one for December, so it's been 2 months since we've done this. But now we are back in the swing of things. We proudly present to you our top tracks of the month, so enjoy. Starting with the honourable mentions for this month for best track of the month, we'll start with Pure Comedy by Father John Misty, a great sort of piano-based ballad by an ex-member of Fleet Foxes, and a track that isn't actually doing too well commercially. I mean, critics are loving it, and I can understand why. It's got some of the best lyrics I've heard in years. Honestly, just read the lyrics. It reads like poetry. It's unbelievable. And the actual instrumentation is exploratory as well, and his melodies are good. It's sort of like Don McClaney type stuff. I even said that in my song review, but it's not doing as well as I thought it would. It's around 20 to 50,000 views at the moment. I'd be expecting at least 100,000 for a song of this caliber, because it's just that good. And hopefully this track will bring himself up as, you know, a more recognised name, because I think he's just teeter-tottering on that at the moment, and it's commercial enough, as well as being, you know, musical and theoretically so strong, that I think it could be a huge track for him. Moving on, we have Up in Hudson by Dirty Projectors. Another great track here. It's very, very experimental. People are either going to connect with this really well, or people are going to hate it. It's one of those tracks, but as a technical achievement and a theoretical achievement, it really is a great track, because even if you don't like it as a song and you didn't find it that catchy, you could at least see what they were trying to do here and really respect it. They had the wackiest of instrumentation, like spoons, there's some tribal type stuff in there, all sorts of different like electronic pads and synths, and it just sounded great. And there's some strings in there, so a really good vocal performance. It's about 7 minutes long, so not everyone's going to love that part of it, but it's just on paper it looks amazing, and I connected with it, and I actually had some great fun with it, so I recommend that track. Moving on to the latest track to be put on this list is Automaton by Jamiroquai. Automaton being the new LP they're going to be releasing as well, but this is like the title track and the debut track off of it. A really, really solid sort of funk / electronic track with lots of key changes, lots of section changes, really sort of progressive, and something I really didn't expect from Jamiroquai, because usually they make really fun, like funky tunes, like groove tunes, which are around sort of 3 to 4 minutes long. They have had times where they've implemented longer sort of instrumental sections into their songs towards like up to like 5 minutes or so, but this is just like balls to the wall stuff, and I really enjoy it, and I really recommend that you listen to it. Then we have The Kids Don't Want to Come Home by Declan McKenna, a brand new artist which is just emerging right now. Really excited to see what he does in the future. Again, the lyrics in this are really good. In fact, even all the sections sound brilliant on their own, and the instrumentation is fun, the progressions are great, the vocal performance is great, but the chorus does sound a lot like Stacey's mom, so that sort of distracted me from it a little bit. Then we have Silhouette by Aquilo, as well as You Don't Know Where You Stand by Aquilo, so they've sort of big hitters on this list. They've got 2 tracks on this list, and deservedly so. I think You Won't Know Where You Stand is the best one they have released. I think it's emotional, it's very narrative driven, and it had me and other people from around the world actually welling up just at the music video with the accompaniment. The project they've done here with the Silhouette trilogy is fantastic, and although I didn't really like the third part of the trilogy, I still thought it was a great effort by a group, or rather a duo I can see blowing up over the next 2 years or so. Then we have Fickle Game by Amber Run. I'll send this one slightly early by Promoters, and again as another piano based sort of ballad, so it's obviously a month of the ballads, but it's a bit more than that. It's got a sort of progressive type vibe to the end of it, as well as it develops a lot. It's all about a build up, this song, to this final chorus, which is strong. Lyrics are great again, and I can't really fault this track in any areas, other than perhaps it wasn't as catchy as I was wanting, because like individually as well as when it's put together, it's damn near like perfect. It's just not as catchy as perhaps I'd like it to be. And then we've also got Way It Goes by Hippocampus, which is like the indie input into this list, and although it's not quite as strong as the other songs I've already mentioned on this list, it's still a solid track. And Hippocampus are quickly becoming one of the best indie groups in the world. Their fan group is doubling like every week I'm seeing them, and they just make fun music, fun, catchy, heartwarming music, and this just it gave me memories and all that sort of great stuff. It stirred emotions, which is exactly what you wanted to hear. And then the last in our honourable mentions, it's a long honourable mentions. We've had a lot of really good songs this year so far. And we have Jealousy by Tom Odell. Now, I know this came out on his album last year, but the music video came out today, and off the rules of the site, it counts for this month's top track list. And again, it's a piano-based ballad, but it's a good one with really good lyrics. I didn't like the Tom Odell album, which he released last year. I thought a lot of it was very cheesy, but this was a standout with great lyrics, a fantastic vocal performance, one of the best vocal performances I've heard in a long time. And yeah, I recommend this one as well. The best track of the month has to go to a song I've seen live. I saw it live in November, but it was only released this month. It was sort of like an early sort of live performance whilst he was performing with Jack Garrett. I was also sent it early by his promoter, and it's I Got You by Ceramic. If you've been following the site, I don't think I put a YouTube review up on it, but if you've been following the site, you'll know how much I talk about this song because it's just so good. It's basically if you took the Jamiroquai type instrumentation and you put someone with, like a Jack Garrett type voice on top of it, because the vocal performance is so good on this song, but it's so funky and groovy as well. And I really recommend that any fans of sort of the disco scene, the 90s disco scene, as well as the early 2000s funk scene with the likes of Jamiroquai and Dirty Loops, if they like that sort of stuff, check out Ceramic and check out this song. It's a fantastic track and definitely deserved of being the top track of this month. Quick shout out to the best independent track of this month, and that goes to Like the First Time by Kerosene. Now again, this came out a couple months ago, but it only came to my attention now. When it comes to independent tracks, the rules are slightly different because obviously you don't get exposure to them until you get exposure to them by the group. And I've only come across it in January when it was sent to me, and so it still qualifies for this list. But a really strong and solid track from a group who are going to grow throughout this year. They've already grown tenfold since I reviewed this track earlier this month, and they've got this sort of Cure edge to them, but they're a bit more hardcorey and punky, and it's aggressive as well as it's got that sort of melancholy feel. It's just a really diverse and multi-dimensional track. Moving on to our worst tracks, we have a couple of honourable mentions here. We have Run Up by Major Lazer featuring Party Next Door and Nicki Minaj. Terrible performances all around. It's like an electro pop infused, reggae infused, dancehall infused track. Like basically the same Major Lazer release we've had about 18 times in a row since the start of 2016. They just keep releasing the same song with different artists on it, and it's just boring at this point. Two terrible performances by Nicki Minaj, who can't rhyme it seems, and Party Next Door, who's flat as heck, as well as being auto-tuned in that chorus with a terrible hook delivery. Then we have Boomerang by Lower Than Atlantis, a really rubbish sort of pop rock track, which is overly produced, like incredibly overly produced, as well as weak and just lacking any power or structure to it. They were trying to incorporate electronic elements and it just didn't work. Fans hated it. Casual listeners have been deterred away, and they're just trying to sound so much like Don Brocco, but they don't have that funky bass line or anything like that to really pull them in anyway. Then we have Believe by Mida or Mida, whoever it is. It's a cover of Cher's track Believe, and it's a terrible cover as well. It's a direct replica, nothing changes, it's a pointless track. Her fans hated it. It's again released under Spinning Records with the worst record label. It's overproduced. It lacks character, it's got no novelty to it like the original does. Really pointless and very, very, very close to being the worst track of this month. Then we have Hallelujah Money by Gorillaz featuring Benjamin Clementine. Terrible instrumentation, disjointed. It's been given way, way too much credit for how forced and obvious it is with its political message. There's no subtlety to it, there's no intelligence to it, there's no sophistication to it. It's just a very, very poor version of $1 Million Loan by Death Cab for Cutie, or even that Father John Misty song we were talking about earlier. And it's just, it's clunky, it's not musical in any way. They've tried to put statement ahead of music, but the music platform is so weak and dire, lacking any substance to it, that it just sounds like Benjamin Clementine is crooning all over the place, all over it, and it just sounds bad. It just, musically, it sounds uncatchy and just bad. Regardless of your political message, it was released on the presidential inauguration day, so it's trying to capitalise off of a controversy and just basically cash grabber. We've already heard it from Franz Ferdinand, Macklemore, Death Cab for Cutie, we had it from ASAP Ty. You know, everyone's done this now, and your message is just exactly the same, so it's a pointless song as well. Then we have Touch by Little Mix. Everyone's saying that, oh, they're just grown up trying to sing about mature themes, but this song is just bad. Tell that to, other groups and stuff. Just because you reach like 20 to 25 years old doesn't mean that every song has to immediately start being about sex. It just and the message, and not really the message, but the lyrical content is so obvious and blatant and not sexy or sensual or anything like that, that it's just a dire pop track with nothing to it. The performances are terrible by everybody in Little Mix, and they're just trying so hard to be Fifth Harmony at the moment. And yeah, they're just a rubbish song. And then we have We're Family by the Flaming Lips, also featuring Miley Cyrus. Clunky, disjointed, lacking all musicality to it, trying to be experimental without having any substance to it. Terrible vocal performance by both Miley Cyrus as well as the lead singer of the Flaming Lips. The sooner those two depart from each other, the better. I didn't like the Flaming Lips in the first place. I thought they were always trying to be experimental for experimental's sake rather than making good music. And Miley Cyrus was actually writing some decent tunes before she started collaborating with them, and they're both just producing garbage after garbage, reaching everybody's worst list, and for good reason. This song is a difficult listen. It's clunky and just horrible to listen to. Then we got I Got You by Bebe Rexha, who's Azerbaijani or something like that. She's famous because we've been told that she's famous. All the media's just saying she's famous. Yeah, honestly, she's famous. Like, she's done a lot. I didn't know who she was, and she's obviously endorsed by Dre Beats, and she's obviously another cash grab project. The song is bland and forgettable. The remixes are terrible as well. She puts in a rubbish vocal performance. It's just really safe and predictable, so I don't recommend that one. Then we got Riding Around by DJ Mustard featuring Nippy Hussle and RJ, and I nearly forgot about the song. I'm actually forgetting to say anything about it. All I remember is that it was like a bland trap track, and it reminded me that DJ Mustard is one of the worst producers out there at the moment. He's obviously not collaborating with big artists anymore because people have grown to hate his sound at last. You know, he's not producing with like Jeremiah or anyone like that anymore, and now he's reduced to basically being with no names, and he's released another song here which is completely forgettable and just plain garbage, really. It's just a stereotypical trap track. And then the last track on this list is another stereotypical trap track, and was so close to being the worst track of the month, and that's I'm Better by Missy Elliott featuring Lamb. Now this is a harsh one because I really do like Missy Elliott as an artist, but this track is awful. Lamb is really flat and tries to sound like Big Sean in the chorus. Missy Elliott's performance is rubbish. He has this like bobbity bobbity bobby, bobbity bobbity bobby as her flow, and it's just exactly what Snoop Dogg took the mickey out of. It's just a rubbish song, to be honest, and it's been rushed, and it's just repetitive. It's been copy and pasted. The instrumentation is so bad. We have 3 notes as the progression, and it's just, again, released for a cheap cash grab, and it's obviously so. The worst track, however, of the month has to go to Poppin' Tags by Future. Yet again, Future is appearing on another worst list of mine, and people are probably, you know, thinking, oh, have you just got like prejudice against him? And no, he just makes rubbish. I haven't heard a single song by him that is good in any way. His signature auto-tune is awful, and it sounds awful, and he's out of time, and he has no flow to him, and his backing tracks are awful, and they're rushed, and you could download it straight from YouTube and do even better on it, and it sucks. It's bad. It's so bad. So there you have it. You have the best, the worst, the nearly best, the nearly worst, and the best independent tracks there. Hope you like this video. This will be happening every month. It used to happen every week on the site, but then it was a bit too tedious, and it's better to just sum everything up in a big segment and actually just have it a bit more entertaining for you guys. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to see more, and see you around next time. Bye bye.